As I begin to recount my experience with the old prison in Coburg, my mind is immediately filled with fear and unease. It's as if the prison has a grip on my thoughts, refusing to let go of the terror that I felt while I was there. The Pentridge prison, built in 1851, housed some of the most notorious criminals in Victoria's history. The walls were stained with the blood of 11 executions and countless other deaths that were buried in a mass grave near the H Division. Only the H Division remained standing, a grim reminder of the horrors that had taken place within its walls. The first time I went on the ghost tour of the prison, I was on a date with a girl who, like me, was fascinated by the paranormal. As soon as I walked through the doors, I felt an eerie presence that I couldn't shake off. It was as if the prison itself was alive, and it was watching us. As the tour progressed, our guide regaled us with stories of the prison's history. It was then that he asked for a volunteer to stand in one of the cells. My date eagerly volunteered and was shut into a 9 feet x 6 feet x 9 feet cell with a heavy metal door. The cell had a pentagram on the floor, but it was only for effect, as there were no recorded Satanist or associated rituals in the prison. While my date was in the cell, the rest of the group moved to another part of the prison, still keeping an eye on her. But after just 2 minutes, she came rushing out of the cell, visibly shaken. She told us that she felt a presence in the cell with her, and it was drawing her towards the back right-hand corner. She struggled to breathe, feeling like she was suffocating, but managed to focus on taking deep breaths. Then, she felt a warm breath on the back of her neck, and she ran out of the cell. Later, we found out that the cell belonged to Eddie Linsky, the notorious Brownout Strangler. He was an American-born serial killer who murdered 3 women in Albert Park during his deployment to help the Australian war effort in 1942. Linsky was known for getting drunk and singing in a high-pitched, womanly voice at pubs, which made him a bit of an attraction for fellow pub-goers, many of whom started singing along with him. All 3 women he murdered were one of those people who sang along with him. Linsky confessed to liking those women's voices as they were vaudeville performers or professional vocalists. He would suck their breath out of their mouth as they took their dying breaths in the hopes of gaining their vocal skills. And my date was a trained opera singer. On my second visit to the prison, I was with my girlfriend, and the atmosphere was different. The prison felt heavy, and it was as if we weren't wanted there. My girlfriend's knees started shaking, and she felt like she was going to black out. We had to step outside, and I prayed for her protection. When we went back in, my girlfriend clung to my arm, and we made our way through the cells. In some cells, the heaviness was almost unbearable, and in others, we felt nothing. The main foyer area was the heaviest of all, and I couldn't shake off the feeling that we were being watched. But the scariest moment came when we stumbled upon a cell that was not on the tour route. It was almost as if the prison was leading us there. Inside the cell, we found a video camera that was still recording. We watched the footage, and I didn't know what to make of it. I was the only one in that cell, yet it looked as if someone was standing right next to me, almost reaching out to touch me. It was so vivid that I could feel their breath on my skin, and I swear I could hear faint whispers in my ear. I quickly took the photo and rushed out of the cell. As I made my way back to the group, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was following me. It was like a cold chill that ran down my spine, and I felt like I was being watched. I turned around to see if anyone was there, but there was no one in sight. I brushed it off as my imagination and rejoined the group. The rest of the tour was uneventful, and we made our way back to the entrance. As we were leaving, the guide handed me a pamphlet with information about the prison and its history. I thanked her and walked outside. But as soon as I stepped out, I felt a sudden jolt of pain in my chest. It was so intense that I stumbled and fell to the ground. My girlfriend rushed to my side, asking me what was wrong. I could barely speak. The pain was so intense. It felt like something was squeezing the life out of me, and I couldn't catch my breath. I tried to tell her what I had experienced in the cell, but the words wouldn't come out. All I could do was clutch my chest and gasp for air. The pain eventually subsided, and I was able to catch my breath. We made our way back to the car, and as we drove away, I couldn't help but feel like I was leaving something behind, something that wanted me to stay, to be a part of it. It was a feeling that stayed with me for days after, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had made a terrible mistake by entering that prison. Months went by, and I tried to forget about my experience at Pentridge. I told myself it was just my imagination, that there was nothing paranormal about it. But deep down, I knew that wasn't true. The photo I had taken in that cell was proof of something otherworldly, something that I couldn't explain. One day, I was looking through old photos on my phone, and I came across the photo I had taken in the cell. I zoomed in on the figure standing next to me, and I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. It was Eddie Linsky, the brownout strangler. His face was twisted in a grotesque grin, and his eyes seemed to follow me as I moved my phone. I immediately deleted the photo, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching me. I knew then that I had made a grave mistake by entering that prison. Something had followed me out, and it was still with me to this day. Now, every night, I can feel its presence in my room, watching me as I sleep. I hear its whispers in my ear, and I feel its cold breath on my skin. I know that I'll never be able to escape it, and that it will always be with me, haunting me for the rest of my life. I moved into a house with my fiancé and his family back in August 2021. Our living space encompassed the entire basement, save for the laundry room. It wasn't long before I noticed peculiar occurrences, a distinct sound of footsteps ascending and descending the stairs. When I broached the subject with my mother-in-law, she regaled me with a multitude of ghost stories accumulated over decades. The history of this house is fraught with strange happenings, witnessed by its inhabitants throughout the years. Footsteps on the stairs have become an unsettling norm, ranging from resounding, thunderous strides to the rapid patter of running feet. It is reminiscent of the classic haunting tales, cabinets and drawers opening of their own accord, doors swinging open and slamming shut. We hear these phantom footsteps even when no one else is home, and our feline companions react with an uncharacteristic aggression. However, it is essential to note that there has never been any violence associated with these occurrences. My childhood abode, too, was shrouded in a spectral veil. It was described as a vortex of negative energy by a friend of my mother's who visited to bless the house. Strangely enough, she sensed that whatever resided there took a particular interest in me. The epicenter of paranormal activity was my bedroom, where manifestations were most pronounced. As soon as my mother's friend entered, she was overcome with a profound sense of sickness. Although I left that house in 2016, I can't shake the feeling that its presence still lingers, tethered to my very being. Around the onset of fall in 2021, sightings of peculiar entities commenced. Both my mother-in-law and I witnessed a small, shadowy creature darting behind the water heater in the laundry room. While I didn't manage to get a clear look at it, my mother-in-law likened it to a diminutive yeti. Shortly thereafter, we spotted the same enigmatic figure outside, right in front of our house. Nowadays, I catch glimpses of it out of the corner of my eye, fleeting and elusive. Sometimes, an eerie sensation of being watched overwhelms me, and upon turning to face the source, I barely manage to glimpse the entity before it vanishes into thin air. Each encounter with this apparition instills an uncanny feeling, akin to the primal fear of a child hiding under the safety of blankets, sensing an imminent terror lurking nearby. During the summer of the previous year, while my mother-in-law and I were in the basement, we were overcome by an inexplicable unease. Standing beside a sheet that functioned as a makeshift room divider, she suddenly found herself being seized by an unseen force. I witnessed the sheet quiver and observed what appeared to be hands, as though someone were attempting to embrace her through the obstructing fabric. The cats, usually composed and aloof, reacted with unprecedented frenzy. Periodically, the intensity of these phenomena subsides, only to return with a vengeance, each recurrence surpassing the previous one in terms of sheer dread. My sister-in-law, too, experiences a multitude of unsettling incidents in her bedroom, with a palpable sense of something being amiss emanating from her closet. Additionally, she frequently finds her belongings mysteriously disappearing. Within the basement lies an antique mirror that I am inclined to keep covered, for it instills an inexplicable sense of unease in me and others. Whenever the paranormal activity resurfaces, the cover on the mirror unfailingly falls off repeatedly. The cats exhibit a vehement aversion to it, and I, too, feel an overwhelming discomfort when gazing into its depth. Various attempts to remedy despite our best efforts, using holy water, seeking blessings, and even resorting to the cleansing power of sage, none of our attempts have succeeded in dispelling the eerie presence that pervades our home. The unsettling encounters persist, defying rational explanation and leaving us grasping for answers. There is a lingering suspicion that this malevolent force may have followed me from my childhood home, a place plagued by similar disturbances. Strangely, none of the current occupants of this house had experienced any paranormal phenomena until I arrived, and once I did, the intensity of the haunting seemed to escalate, as if this otherworldly entity had honed in on my presence, fixating its attention upon me. The unsettling incidents of my childhood resurface in my memory. In that house, which had also been my mother's childhood home, we would frequently catch fleeting glimpses of elusive people who would inexplicably vanish into thin air like fleeting shadows. Their voices would echo through the halls, accompanied by bizarre dreams that defied rational comprehension. We would hear our names being called by ethereal whispers, yet we understood the wisdom of never responding. Strangely, even as I was just learning to speak, I would point at the grand mirror in the hallway, crying out about the people I could see within its reflective surface. As I grew older, those encounters diminished, but the lingering memory remains vivid, an image of Native American figures standing stoically, adorned with vibrant jewelry, adorned with feathers. The foremost figure held a staff or perhaps a large stick. Are these memories a product of my imagination, distorted by time and the fading impressions of childhood? Or did I truly bear witness to something otherworldly? The question gnaws at my mind relentlessly, urging me to seek answers. My mother holds the belief that these enigmatic figures were present to shield us from the malevolence that haunted our childhood home. Could it be possible that they, too, have now materialized in this new domain, standing as guardians against the sinister force that pursues me? Is this entity a mere manifestation of negative energy, drawn to the vulnerability it perceives within my being? The harrowing encounters persist, leaving me feeling helpless and consumed by terror. Each passing day, the intensity swells and my nausea intensifies. I find solace in the fact that I am not alone, as my fiancé and his family also grapple with these otherworldly manifestations. Together, we must confront the unexplainable and forge a path toward resolution. The search for answers and a means to banish this relentless haunting will become our collective endeavor. In our quest for understanding, we will explore the annals of history, consult experts in the paranormal, and seek guidance from those who possess knowledge of the supernatural. We will not allow fear to paralyze us, but will instead embrace the strength that arises from unity. With our combined determination and resilience, we shall strive to uncover the nature of this entity and discover the means to release ourselves from its ominous grip. The journey will be arduous, filled with moments of trepidation and uncertainty. Yet, armed with our unwavering resolve, we will unravel the mysteries that shroud our existence. We shall reclaim our home from the clutches of darkness and find the peace that has eluded us for far too long. The conclusion of this tale remains unwritten, but we will not rest until we have reached the final chapter, a resolution that promises liberation and the restoration of tranquility to our lives. And in the face of the unknown, we shall confront our deepest fears and emerge victorious, proving that the indomitable spirit of humanity can triumph over even the most chilling of supernatural forces. It was 12 years ago when we moved into that haunted apartment. It was a beautiful space located in a decent part of town. My husband and I were excited to get our own space as we had been living with my mom. We had terrible credit, but the landlord gave us a chance. When he first showed us the apartment, he said that he had to do extensive renovations to the place as the previous tenants destroyed it. We didn't think much of it at the time. For context, my stepson was a huge component of part of the story. My husband related these stories about my stepson to me. As a child, my stepson was sensitive to ghosts, paranormal and all that stuff. An incident happened when he was a baby at another haunted apartment where he woke up in the middle of the night crying like he was hurt in his crib. My husband and mom noticed 3 scratches on his back. Of course, it could be explained, yet my husband insisted those scratches were not there prior to putting him to sleep. Another strange phenomenon was that almost every photo of my stepson had some orb near him. Of course, it could be explained, yet there were photos of just his foot in the background and a well-placed orb near his foot. No matter the location of the photo, 90% of the photos we had of him had this weird orb. Things in the new apartment grew more intense when I put my 1-year-old son down for a nap and decided to shower. I left the door open that led from the single bathroom to my bedroom just in case my 1-year-old woke up. As I was showering, I felt as though someone was watching me. When I opened my eyes, I saw a black shadow run past the door. My 1-year-old started crying hysterically. I quickly got out of the shower and looked around the house convinced someone broke in. I checked the front door and everything was locked. A month or so passed from this incident. My 2 stepkids, who were 7 and 8 at the time, would come over 1 day a week and on some weekends. Their room was relatively unused. I started hearing their sliding wood closet doors knock and a strange rotten egg smell coming from their room. I searched high and low for the source of the smell but never found anything. My mother-in-law stayed over a few times and would tease that the kids must have left an egg salad sandwich somewhere. My husband heard the knocking at some point yet chalked it up to the air conditioning kicking on. One weekend, my husband was out of town for work and I was alone with all the kids. I had got them all to sleep and decided to stay up and watch Ghost Adventures. I was laying on the couch when I happened to look up and see my stepson standing by the couch with his eyes closed. Immediately, I realized he was sleepwalking, which happened from time to time. He started mumbling about an old scary man in his closet. I stupidly figured he was having a nightmare and guided him back to his bed. As I started to walk out of the room, my stepson sat up in bed and mumbled again. The old man in the closet is looking at me. I looked over to see the closet open and instantly got creeped out. Then my stepson said he's going to knock. Then 3 quick knocks happened. Immediately the smell of rotten eggs got heavy in the room. I flicked the lights on and guided my stepson to my bedroom. I was freaking out internally because my stepdaughter was on the top bunk in that room sleeping, and I did not want to leave her alone. I got all kids into my bed and stayed up until I was experiencing in the apartment. We both knew we had to do something to get rid of whatever was haunting our home. We consulted with a paranormal investigator who came and did an investigation. During the investigation, he found a secret room hidden behind the closet in the kids' room. The room had old dolls, candles, and strange symbols written on the walls. The investigator told us that the room was most likely used for some kind of ritual, and that the spirits that had been summoned were still trapped in our apartment. We were terrified and didn't know what to do. We contacted a priest who performed an exorcism on our home. During the exorcism, we heard screams and banging coming from inside the walls. The priest told us that the spirits were resisting and that we had to hold on and trust in the power of God. After the exorcism, things started to calm down. The shadows and the knocking in the kids' room stopped, and the rotten egg smell disappeared. We felt like we could finally breathe again. However, we still couldn't shake the feeling that something was off in the apartment. One day, while I was doing laundry in the basement, I noticed that the floorboards were loose. I pulled them up and found a hidden room just like the one in the kids' room. This one was even more sinister, with a pentagram drawn on the floor and what looked like bloodstains on the walls. I immediately called my husband, and we decided that we had to leave the apartment. We packed up our things and moved out that day, leaving the apartment and all of its secrets behind. To this day, I still have nightmares about the old man in the closet and the dark shadows that used to follow us around. I know that we did the right thing by leaving that apartment, but I can't help but wonder what happened to the people who lived there after us. Did they experience the same things we did? Or did they never know the true horror that lay hidden in the walls of that cursed apartment?